Welcome to the Market Report with Cointelegraph. We are back at it again and have some massive market headlines to chat about. Did you hear about Evergrande? We're going to be letting you sink your teeth into one of the hottest topics of the week. Our guest this week is cryptocurrency trader and market analyst Eric Krown. I am your host, Benton. We're joined again by our resident experts, Jordan Finiseth and Marcel Peckman. Jordan uses his background in psychology and human behavior to spot emerging trends in crypto, and Marcel Peckman applies his 17 years of experience trading derivatives, options, and futures to the crypto derivatives market. Jordan and Marcel, how are we both doing today? What is going on with these markets, man?
Great, man.
Marcel.
I feel bad for these guys that are saying, wow, this week we're down 10%. It's the end of the world. Regulation is coming. They're going to stop stable coins and it's going to make the markets go down to zero. That's not going to happen, dude. At least not the real decentralized applications or to decentralize currency. Government can do nothing. Yeah, they can ban banks from accepting it. They can delay the ETF approval. By the way, I think the ETF is going to happen in the first quarter of 2022. So we're 6 months away. And this is going to drive coins up. So don't get stressed out.
Yeah, I don't know what people are figuring out so much about. Like, for any crypto veteran, this is just another week in the, like a walk in the park. Like, oh man, they're doing this again? But is it something from China? Who's doing it this time? Oh, what, China's causing a drop in the market? No way! Like, oh, this is just the same thing that we always get to go through. Come on, this is why we're here.
Another day in the life of being in crypto. This is just another walk in the park. Today's show, we're going to be breaking into some market news, some big headlines of the week. We're going to be diving into our expert segments with both Jordan and Marcel. They're going to talk on NFTs, and we have a little bit of El Salvador chat coming from Marcel today. And then we're going to dive into Markets Pro and our special guest at the end, Eric Krown, who is that market analyst and expert trader. You guys are not going to want to miss that today. He's got some super solid tips for every single one of you to learn about. I know I'm excited to start learning from him. If you haven't liked and subscribed, make sure you do that now. Before we really get going here, like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We're here Thursdays at 12 p.m. So let's go ahead and jump right into some of our biggest headlines this week for our markets news segment. All right, Jordan, you were talking about this last week. Our first headline of the day here is crypto markets soar after the Fed commits to printing and Evergrande plans to pay its debt. Evergrande was a topic Jordan brought up last week, and that's why we're here. We're giving you those insights. Jordan, talk to us about Evergrande. You kind of highlighted it a little bit last week, but like, what is Evergrande? Why is this so important right now, especially in the crypto markets?
Well, it's really reminding everybody of what happened in 2008 with Lehman. Evergrande is one of the largest real estate companies in China. Like, the difference really is that they're not as systemically like on a global level as Lehman was. So it's most of the money and problem will be located in China. Sure, there's some investors from other countries like the US maybe that have some investments that are in there, but for a majority of it, it's going to be in China. And it's just, this company when I heard it, like somebody was explaining this week, I'm like, that sounds a lot like a Ponzi. Like, they're taking money to build new things, but there was a point when they were taking money from new investors to build something to pay off dividends to old investors and stuff. And I'm like, that's a Ponzi. So it just seems like it was a company that got a little too big for its britches, and like kind of the regulatory oversight that should exist in the world didn't for this company. And now the world's kind of reacting to it. But it's just another shakeout. Will China jump in and save them? I don't know. They really seem like they're going on this new track of like common prosperity and stuff. And the housing market in China is such a holder of wealth over there that for them to hope to realign the field, that company might have to take a big hit. So I don't know. It seems like there's a restructuring on the world going on. So we're all just kind of being party to this journey we're on.
But we saw coin dip all the way down to 38K. Did Evergrande news about them possibly not being able to repay their debts, did that tank the market, or did that have an impact on the market in your opinion?
It caused the price of Evergrande stock to go down. And you got to think, if all these markets are like connected, if people are invested in that and they get margin call or something, they're going to have to sell other things to cover their costs and stuff. So it's more like, especially in China, there's a lot of people that, even though they've tried to regulate it, they hold Bitcoin, especially in miners and stuff. So when Evergrande price dropped and people might have got margin called. Some people probably had to sell Bitcoin, and just the nature of the markets and people kind of once the herd starts moving, everybody flees to the sidelines. It's like, oh, it's a contagion. So I think it just kind of rippled through the market personally. What, you shaking your head, Marcel? What's going on?
What is it, Marcel? Let's hear it.
First, I'm going to ask a quick question. Had we been on a bull market, would that kind of news impact Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? Yes or no?
Yes.
No, come on, man. A China company, a debt, 300 billion debt, they're printing trillions of dollars every month. So it's $300 billion. And it's housing market. Yeah, it can crash like 40% maximum, but it's housing market. It's real estate. They have something to back it.
Too much logic, man. You're like, no, this is what it is. I'm talking about people. Yes, people do not think they respond like, oh, crowd. Oh, that person ran, run. Like it shouldn't have, but I'm saying that no matter, even if we were in a bull market, I think that's starting to go down would have pulled up these thoughts of Lehman. Everybody's saying this is a Lehman moment, it's a Lehman moment, and it might have caused this. But like even to rebut, aren't we kind of in a bull market right now? Are we still? Is it a bear market? Is it a bull market? Because if it is kind of a long-term bull market, then it caused it to go down. Like.
I don't think we're in a bull market. That's my point, because people are afraid of regulation. All the time they're saying, well, the SEC, the Treasury Secretary, whatever, they're gonna slam the stable coins, and they told Coinbase to stop their lending program, the Earn program, just this week. And Binance Australia was restricted of offering derivatives contracts as well. So regulators are piling in, and people are afraid of that. But as you said, yeah, it depends on people's mentality.
I think we have a love-hate relationship with regulators. Because even for yourself, you're like, a Bitcoin ETF is what's going to take us up. So I'm like, on one hand, we're like, regulate us. And the other hand, we're like, no, regulation's bad. It's like, welcome to duality.
That's all part of the game. Now, I guess my question is this. Were you guys getting in on this dip at all recently, especially this last week? Marcel, what were you doing, and how were you looking at that market position?
No, I had a couple of friends calling me, I have a leverage long position. What do I do? If it dips down below 35,000, I'm going to be stopped. And said, maybe reduce 25% of it, reduce some of the leverage, but don't get out here at 40,000. It's kind of cheap. We were talking about 800 billion, 900 billion market cap, while the goal is 11 trillion. So at least until we get to $5 trillion, the single use case for Bitcoin, if there's only one, which is holding money outside of the system, the store of value, I believe that it's minimum $5 trillion market. We're not talking about NFTs, decentralized finance. We're not talking about any of that. Just competing with the gold and giving a better solution. So until we get to $4 or $5 trillion, don't sell it, never.
Very, very interesting. And in fear and greed index, did you guys ever look at that? Does that play into like any of your trades at all, or how you like to look at the market? Jordan, what do you think?
Well, that just plays into the whole like be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. When it's in the fear mode, that's when I'm like, oh, this is the time to smash up. Like I didn't jump in and buy Bitcoin, but there was some not NFT, but gaming related tokens and other altcoins that I was like, dang it, I missed out on that. And this pullback was like, no, I didn't. So I bought the dip on not Bitcoin, but some other tokens. Like again, I don't do leverage trading like Marcel over here. I'm a long-term hodler with altcoin focus. So there's some really emerging trends like gaming, play to earn games and stuff that are coming out in the crypto scene that I'm just kind of putting in, getting some ground floor entries into personally.
Yeah, I mean, I see this as a gift anytime, especially Ethereum drop below 3K. Super bullish on that on the long term. So it's sometimes you got to zoom out during these events and really have that much longer term perspective, because who knows where we'll be 6 months, 12 months, even 3 or 4 years from now. We're in a great position. I do want to kind of shift us over though to some more regulatory news that will impact the markets. So Biden to nominate anti-crypto and anti-big bank law professor to run the OCC. Omarova is expected to seek tighter regulations for crypto, as she has described this sector as threatening the stability of the economy and ripe for abuse from large private financial entities. So is there any truth behind this claim? Marcel, what's your take in having this anti-crypto, anti-big bank potentially law professor sit in the OCC?
Okay, so just last year in June, I believe, the OCC allowed the banks to work with exchanges and to even do custody for stablecoins. So the OCC was really crypto friendly, and that was good. But was that a driver for adoption? Did that allow the ETFs to be launched? No, I don't think it was a game changer. OCC controls the banks. I don't see much relation or much influence that they have over the SEC and the CFTC, which are effectively the regulators of the crypto industry. But so I don't think that this change is a game changer.
Yeah.
Jordan, what say you?
I think people don't understand necessarily how laws in America work. Like, if people haven't been paying attention, we haven't really passed any crypto laws too big lately. It's because people talk a lot, but when it comes down to it, the regulators don't pass. No, the lawmakers don't pass anything, and that's the only thing things get done. Like, remember a few years ago, it was a crypto-friendly person put in by Trump in the OCC. So what's to say that in a couple of years when Biden's gone, that's not going to change again? So this is more like a short-term thing. It's more like a cry for help, or like the empire that they're losing their reserve currency power, and like, oh, they're trying to stop it from happening. They realize like, oh crap, this might be a little too late. But nothing is going to happen until lawmakers pass laws here. If it's a presidential edict or like thing, whatever, it has to be like a law on the books put in place. And as it stands, our lawmakers can't work together for anything. So I think this is all just news, like it's headline news to drive the markets, but is it really going to change things? No, not, because I think long term, the people that are in charge understand that cryptocurrencies are the future of the financial realm and like where the whole digital technology is going. So they're just trying to put blocks to kind of slow the growth, in my opinion. But long term, it's not going to change things.
Yeah, and I mean, just being at the mainnet conference earlier this week, everyone's talking about regulation and regulatory clarity. Whether this person, Omarova, is going to be a good or a bad thing, what will happen is it's going to start bringing more clarity about what people can do and not do, especially when it comes to institutions getting involved in the DeFi space. They just need rules to know like what they can do, what they can't do. Then you'll kind of start to see some of these other niches inside the market start to kind of grow. I think once the laws and stuff start to get passed, or any kind of like regulatory stuff. So I'm curious to hear from your insights though. Marcel, will this regulatory clarity help the markets, I guess, prevail, or do we kind of see like bearish sentiment heading out of any kind of regulations here moving forward?
Okay, so my initial thought is any regulation will be seen by the players as negative, because it's going to restrict listings, it's going to restrict products that can be offered, it's going to restrict access to semi-decentralized products for Americans. But in the end, those companies or those investors can open offshores, or they can simply move out of the United States. I don't think any company is going to shut down or stop providing service just because the regulator says so. Coinbase can open, I don't know, a Bahamas, a Cayman subsidiary, and offer those products for foreigner clients, which will be the Americans using offshore. So I don't think it's going to stop it, just delay a little bit.
Yeah,
excellent insights.
Regulations will scare off businesses, but it'll attract the people. So I think it's better
for retailers.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so our last headline here that I want to kind of jump over to is Dogecoin. Everyone's talking about it. All the noobs out there, you hear people, talking about Dogecoin, but it's becoming more popular than ever. And even as transactions hit lowest levels since 2017, people are still on this train. Do you guys see any potential use case with Dogecoin moving forward as a means of payment? Marcel, you are laughing hysterically right now. I'm curious to hear what you're thinking.
It's funny, Benson, because all of these things that Mark Cuban and Elon Musk are saying and trying with Dogecoin right now, We did it 4 years ago. We already tried to do cheaper and faster transactions, and it failed miserably because if you don't have enough security, your network is going to get a 51% attack, so it's not going to be secure. You're going to have to wait 2 days for your transaction to settle. So it doesn't work. There's no magic. I think this is socialist mentalism. We can do something that will do fast and cheap transactions. Do you think that all these people, all these developers, all these companies working on Lightning Network and satellite stuff, they haven't thought about that? Really? Over the past 4 or 5 years? Come on, man. So I think they're going to fail miserably. And in the end, they're going to say, well, yeah, we need decentralization. We need the miners or some other means that it's expensive or it's costly to verify and validate the transactions. They're going to fail.
How long do you think it's going to take to fail, though? I don't know. For me, just looking at the people, because I've seen several different campaigns now. There's a campaign for Bitcoin $100,000. Yeah, there's campaigns that have been going on for Dogecoin $1. I promise you, if Bitcoin's going to get to $100,000, Doge will get to $1 because the same kind of energy behind them there. Will they fail in the future? It's possible. Both could. We don't know what the long-term game of this, right? But short-term, I'll bet that Dogecoin will go to $1 as much as I'll bet Bitcoin will go to $100,000. So, and that's not investment, right? That's just my opinion. And I don't know, there's lots of people that don't want to buy a $50,000 Bitcoin, but they'll buy a couple of Doge when they, or like $100 worth of Doge and have more than one. You know what I'm saying?
I do, unfortunately. I think there's just no use case for Dogecoin. It is an exact replica of the traditional finance system that I think crypto is trying to get away from. It's just endless printing. We've seen it before, how that works. I'm not a big fan of Dogecoin. I think it will get to $1 just because of out of that manifestation from the community and that voracious following. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, with that being said, yes, go ahead, Marcel.
Just one data here, guys. Remember that 90% of the mining for Dogecoin comes from Litecoin miners. So if Litecoin ceases to exist, or those miners say, well, if we kill Dogecoin, that's going to be good for Litecoin, so let's stop mining Dogecoin. So they're hostages. They don't have even their own mining.
That would never happen. That's free money. I'm not going to take that free money. No, I don't want it.
Yeah. To wrap things up here, guys, we're sitting at 43K with Bitcoin. Will it bounce back? Will it continue this momentum upwards towards 50K? We're going to have to find out. We had this significant dip this past week, and we talked about Evergrande and the potential impact and correlation that has on the markets. And it's going to be an interesting waiting game to see how this will shake out and their plans to repay the debts. Dogecoin to $1. Who knows? We'll get more use cases potentially with Elon Musk backing what's happening with their development and how that's going to shake out moving forward. And as always, we're sitting here in the United States waiting for more regulatory clarity. And that was going to be our market news segment. If you haven't liked and subscribed, go ahead and do so. Like and subscribe. Cointelegraph on YouTube. Thursdays at 12 o'clock. We are here. And we are excited to jump into our next segment. I know Marcel is going to be talking to us a little bit today about El Salvador. So let's go ahead and shift over to Marcel for his expert opinions.
Sorry for that. Okay, guys. So, I enjoy being controversial. So this time I'm going to get the other end of the stick and I'm going to trash talk El Salvador and the Chiva wallet and Lightning Network over there. Okay, so the Bitcoiners and the community is celebrating that over 1.5 million El Salvadorians already downloaded and are using the Chiva wallet. Remember that they're getting paid $30 to experiment it. So it doesn't mean that they're continually using, so they're going to download and install it to earn $30. That's an impressive number. So let's move to the facts. So Burger King and McDonald's, are they accepting Bitcoin in Salvador? Yes, they're obliged to, because Bitcoin is a legal tender in Salvador, just like the US dollar is. So any company working there needs to accept Bitcoin. Second question, are those companies holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets, or are they converting automatically to dollar? So the Chivo wallet, the official government wallet, allows anyone, any company, to accept Bitcoin and automatically convert it to US dollars. So yeah, McDonald's and Burger King are accepting Bitcoin, but they are automatically converting to US dollars. So is that a real use case? So I don't know. So Danilo, I want to share a screen of a news that we just posted on Cointelegraph. It's a survey that shows that 54% of the El Salvadorans are not familiar with Bitcoin. So is this adoption? Because they've been putting on the news and on the TV of El Salvador, thank you, Danilo, over and over, and still over half of the population don't even know what Bitcoin is.
So wait, Marcel, does this create like continuous sell pressure for Bitcoin if people are going to be constantly transacting it and then these companies are just immediately selling it for USD? What does that look like?
The net effect is zero. Let's assume that they have parents in the United States that buy Bitcoins and send them money every month, which is the biggest case for money transmission and for in El Salvador. So somebody bought Bitcoin, sent to El Salvador, and this guy sent to McDonald's or to Burger King and spent it, and it's converted back to dollars. So someone bought Bitcoin, and later someone sold. So the net impact is zero. It's like XRP is trying to be the remittance currency of the world and whatever. But yeah, someone is going to buy here, someone is going to sell here. So nobody's holding it. It's not a use case for that.
Like the way you're explaining it now to me, it sounds like this is actually like they're using El Salvador as a test ground. Like they might, even if they are, we don't want that happening. But overall, like, no, this is a test run. Like, can you think of a better place where they could implement Bitcoin, where it's not going to disrupt things too much, and they can kind of observe how how people adopt it, how it gets integrated, how the network handles the strain. It's almost like a small test case. Like that's what I'm seeing. Like 54%, less percentage of people here in the U.S. would be familiar. Like they might have heard Bitcoin, but the ability to use it, no. So I don't know. It just seems like this is, and it's also they're putting the headlines out there so that people in America, people around the world, are seeing like this is going on. This is what's happening. So the idea is kind of being placed in their head for that to warm them up to it in the future. I don't know. It seems like
I think there's a bigger question at hand here. I want to ask Marcel. So like the people that are unbanked in El Salvador right now are essentially now being banked through Bitcoin. Does this ultimately help these countries that with people who don't have access to a banking system actually gives them access now in a way to access a new financial system?
Okay, so first, quickly answering Jordan. Yes, it's a good test. If it succeeds, other countries can adapt, but we don't know. Answer Benton. So in Brazil, we have the same problem. Most of the population was underbanked. The banks were charged high fees, and there was a lot of bureaucracy to open your account, and a lot of people don't have papers. But we solved that in 3 or 4 years. How we've done that? The government allowed competition from fintechs. So anyone with a mobile phone was able, with an internet, was able to open a bank account instantly and transact freely, because there was a lot of competitions, and every month there's a new fintech being launched. But the government gave those fintechs access to the traditional banking system, so people can do transactions, people can pay bills. So and they don't even have a physical place. They can go to any ATM. There's a network of ATMs, and they can withdraw money, cash, if they want. So does Lightning solve a problem? Does Chivo Wallet solve the problem of day-to-day use? Yeah, but Venmo or PayPal or whatever could do the same thing for day-to-day transactions. So the biggest problem in El Salvador is not the day-to-day transactions. That Venmo can solve, that PayPal can solve, any centralized solution can solve. The problem is that a MoneyGram and the other remittance companies were gaining like $400 million per year just from transfers from United States to El Salvador. And Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin can fix this problem, but it's not really Lightning Network. It's not small transactions. Those are larger transactions, $400, $2,000 that they receive monthly from their parents and family in the United States. You get it?
It seems to me like this, even that fintech here in Brazil, the fintech, that's a bridge step in between moving people to crypto. Then that's the difference is more like a decentralized versus decentralized or centralized organization running it. So it just seems like even that's like a step in between moving us all towards a more decentralized, like in that what fintech is just, isn't blockchain kind of a fintech in the future? It's a financial technology. I think a lot of these fintech companies are going to integrate blockchain technology in the future. So again, this is, to me, we're seeing this bridging process of how we get the mass of people from the old system into this new blockchain decentralized financial system. And it's going to take like a decade, but we're just seeing like the slow rollout of it, in my opinion.
But that's not a problem. It doesn't need to be solved. Venmo solved that problem. PayPal solved that problem. If it's just instant and cheap transactions, the fintechs can do it. There's no need for Bitcoin. But on the remittance case, because we're using two different currencies, yeah, we need something out of the traditional finance system, and Bitcoin solves the problem. But Lightning doesn't. Why Lightning doesn't solve the problem? Because on Lightning Network, to send money from on-chain, the regular Bitcoin that you have on our wallet, to the Lightning Network to create the Lightning BTC, to convert it, you do a regular transaction. So if the fees on Bitcoin are $10 or $20, you're going to have to pay that fee. Okay, later, you have the Lightning Network Bitcoins, and you can transact instantly and freely, but those are meant for smaller transactions. There's no minor confirmation involved. You're not going to buy something from the store, a $2,000 notebook using Lightning Network, because the seller won't accept it, because there's no final confirmation for the Lightning transactions unless both parties agree to close the channel and submit those transactions to the network, and they're going to pay the $10 or $20 fee. So the Lightning Network was designed for micro transactions, day-to-day use.
You're hinting at like one of my big problems with even just both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and why I think the platform that we will eventually operate like on a global scale probably doesn't exist yet, because it can't, whether it's a Lightning Network or layer 2 on Ethereum and all these supporting networks. I don't think the network that is the one that's chosen will need a crutch network or a supporting system to help it operate. It will be able to operate layer 1, transacting without high costs, without the need for the large, expensive mining network, and you'll be able to transact it like simply. I think that we're still waiting for that technology to develop.
I mean, no offense here, but like I'm not going to Burger King and McDonald's and spending my Bitcoin. Like I view Bitcoin as like my gold, that I want that for as long as possible and hold it and give it to my grandkids and their grandkids. And it's like, I don't want to spend that. And so, yeah, I think there definitely needs to be another solution. It is interesting to see that this is obviously the first country to kind of start forging this path, and what other countries follow behind. And then if all those countries start to adopt it, then it kind of becomes this more common thing. So I think it will definitely be an interesting evolution here to see what shakes out in the future.
Yeah, the use case for Lightning, they exist. They are out there. We have games, we have content tipping. You can buy from merchants with instant transactions, again, for smaller amounts. So in a nutshell, Lightning Network works. It's secure enough for micropayments. El Salvador is a good test field. Yeah, it's working right now. The adoption is increasing, but it doesn't really solve the El Salvador problem. That's my biggest point, the larger remittances. And I agree, Jordan, maybe there will be an automatic wallet application that if it's a large transaction, it's going to choose the network that's cheaper and faster. If it's a microtransaction, so, well, okay, I don't need Ethereum for that. I'm going to use Solana for this lending. So it's going to be automatic. Nobody will have to decide which network is going to be using that.
We'll have it all figured out one day. But the evolution of that is going to be interesting to watch and see what happens from the sidelines. Marcel, excellent insights today. We appreciate you sharing all that. We are going to shift things over to Jordan, who's going to dive into some NFTs, some of the hottest topics of NFTs this week. So let's jump right in.
Okay, yeah. So the NFT market has been like on fire, or at least was on fire, maybe from the beginning in August until the end of August, really. And then kind of like, if you can go ahead and share my screen, Daniel, I want to just kind of show this article that I did recently. So yeah, the pundits are kind of saying, is the NFT market died? Has it died? One of the before anything, I wanted to jump on this one statistic that this was actually in a Bloomberg article that if you see this right here, 73.1% of assets, like NFT assets, had only one transaction in the last 90 days. So that means like a majority of the NFT tokens on the market have only been like transacted. One person maybe bought them. They probably put it up on OpenSea for sale, but nobody else has bought it. So vast majority of these tokens are very illiquid, in my opinion. And this kind of actually reminds me a lot of the wider altcoin market and how we kind of go through these bull bear market cycles where it kind of gets a lot of attention, goes up, and then kind of the floor falls out from under it. And we're kind of seeing that a little bit here in the NFT market because at the same time you have this going on and things aren't really selling, you're still having some NFTs, like premium ones, or I don't know, for us to squiggle, but it's selling for $2.8 million. So there's kind of this dualistic approach to the whole NFT market going on where some things are really worth a lot and some things aren't worth anything, which mirrors the altcoin market where some projects that have a really good use case and have a good strong following, and some projects that are out there that are like, why does that exist? I don't know. And I don't think necessarily that the NFT market is dead, even though if you see here, the number of NFT sales, again, this is right around August 30th, has kind of flatlined. When I was showing this to Mater, he's like, that just looks to me like the market cycle has played out, and now smarter investors are accumulating floor price NFTs down here. I don't know, I just wanted to kind of throw that back to you guys and say, what's your opinion on this whole NFT market? Thank you, Dana. You can pull that off the screen. And do you think that the NFT market is dead? I don't think it's dead, but I think that it's like in a pullback now. And I wasn't excited to jump into the NFT market the last couple of weeks because things are really expensive. I might wait a little bit longer to see what's going on. What do you guys think?
Marcel, I'll let you jump in here.
I heard about friends will call me, oh, there's a project that is launching an NFT. There's going to be a game in 2 years, and you can buy the spaceship right now, and then you can rent the spaceship in the game that it's going to be developed in 2 years. I'm just... What are we talking about? It's an inexisting game. It's an NFT that we cannot value if it's maybe the companies not good. Maybe the players prefer the lunar rovers, not the spaceship. So it's too early. It's a new world. I don't think anybody can price it, but it's a mania, and I don't think it's going to stop that soon.
Yeah, I'm super bullish on the NFT technology itself. I mean, so the issue is this part of it, Marcel, is that yes, you're getting sold on an idea, and that idea hasn't come to fruition yet. And so imagine yourself where you're getting an in-game asset, a sword, a whatever, and you're able to bring that from game to game to game to game, and you're kind of exploring this whole meta universe with these particular NFTs where it's giving you certain features. So it is very hard if you're not in that world to kind of see what's happening and what can happen. And so I'm super bullish on NFTs. I think right now, as Jordan said, we are kind of in this market cycle where we're on the bottom half of this. My question to Jordan, though, is when you're saying this market is highly illiquid, does that mean just so many people are kind of invested in holding these NFTs, and that's why people aren't really kind of moving around? What do you mean by that?
It means that there's not a lot of demand for each individual token. Like if you are holding a token and you need to get the value out of it, you want to be able to go to a market and sell it like immediately for a higher price. These are like, you can't do that with these. You go on there and you put it at a decent price, and it sits there for a couple of weeks. And you're like, oh, nobody bid for it. So you may have to lower the price, and that's if people are even paying attention to that project. So like a lot of if it's not circulating on crypto Twitter, if everybody ain't going crazy for it and it's one selling and it's selling again 5 minutes for twice as much, like a lot of the other projects aren't getting that much attention. And like hold on, Marcel, and like we saw with the whole John Cena thing, putting out an NFT and like nobody going for it, like the whole market's, I think it's oversaturated, and the demand for all these different things isn't there. When people, why am I going to trade my Ethereum for that? What were you going to say, Marcel?
Yeah, I'm saying that when there's a successful project like the CryptoPunks, people clone it, and they did a Solana punks or whatever. So even if there's a successful product, a hit, what's the barrier for somebody to clone or to copy the idea or the project?
Well, yeah, but then we're getting into like the the non-fungible token. This is one of a kind. Yeah, it's cloned. Oh, so a lot of people joke, oh, I took a screenshot of your JPEG. I have it now too. I'm like, but is it on the block? And I guess this is warming the people up for one day being able to hold your house deed on an NFT. All right, it's just that's like we're rolling it out there. But to me, like the larger thing that I want to point out to people here is just to show the psychology part of this. Like even me as a logical trader, I'm like, some of these DeFi tokens have a lot of utility and like they can really be used. And now, why are people paying millions of dollars for these JPEGs when you can use something that actually can increase your value and stuff like that? And it's just because that's that people like. That's what's hot right now. Like don't try and make sense of what people are going to do, because you're going to leave yourself wrong. So yeah, it's just like you said, long time for myself. If everybody's talking about something, maybe get a little exposure to it. I don't know.
I mean, it's very much so like a clout or a status symbol right now. You saw Steph Curry buying, NFTs for his profile picture on Twitter, and so like there is this hype generated around it. But I think, when you take a step back and you look at it, it's thrusting things out into the main stage and forcing people to get educated about what are these things. Yes, it's art. Yes, it's people are taking screenshots or whatever. But there's something more behind it all. And so like I'm super, super curious to see what's gonna happen next, especially inside the NFT space.
Yeah, and I'll be curious to see how a lot of these, like there's gonna be a lot of people that have buyer's remorse, in my opinion. Like, man, why did I pay so much Ethereum for that NFT? That's just how the market cycles goes. I probably still have several altcoin bags from 2018 that I'm like, damn, I don't think I'm ever gonna get rid of that. So like that's just the way this market goes. Part of this is like, it's like kind of like a casino. We're all throwing out happy fun in this decentralized, unregulated environment, and that's probably why some of us like it. So it's just don't take life.
Jordan, what's your outlook before the end of the year, just for the general overall NFT market? Do you see it going up?
Man, I'm sure by at the end of the year, you're probably still going to have some NFTs selling for millions of dollars, while the majority of them aren't really selling at all. Is it going to be as popular as it was in August? I don't think so. I think other sectors are going to kind of rise up in the interim. Maybe DeFi.
You heard it first. Jordan Finiseth bring you the hottest topics inside of the NFT and DeFi space. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on what's going on right now in that current environment. If you haven't liked, subscribe, do it. Do it now. We're here, 12 o'clock on YouTube, Cointelegraph. Like and subscribe our channel. And we're going to roll over into our Markets Pro segment. We're going to dissect a couple of tokens this week that we saw a surge from. And this is going to be important stuff that you don't want to miss. And so let's jump into Markets Pro. All right, guys, before we dive into Elrond and Axie Affinity this week, I have a question for you. How often are you guys using Markets Pro platform, and how is it helping you with your trades? Jordan?
I kind of look at it every day. Again, I'm not too much of an in and out trader, but I will keep an eye on tokens that I like. And when their Vortex score goes up, even when they've been down for a long time, but their Vortex goes start picking up, that's when I'll look at trying to maybe enter a position if necessary.
Yeah, I like to monitor the volume changes. Better for me, it's more important than the social trend or the price itself. If there's volume getting on a ticker, pay attention, because if it's not pumping right now, it's going to pump in the following weeks. But the Vortex, it's the best solution if you are a beginner. It's going to give you good alerts, maybe 12 hours, 24 hours in advance, so you have time to study the project.
Yeah,
I'm all about those news quicks.
The Twitter volume alert, the ability to monitor Twitter volume is really helpful too. I've noticed a lot of products, the Twitter volume spikes before price does.
Exactly. Well, let's get into our first token here. Danilo, why don't you pull up Elrond for us? And so for those of you who aren't familiar with the Newsquake service by Markets Pro, this helps traders stay on top of important developments. Newsquakes are automated alerts that instantly notify users when market moving events happen. So thanks to them, traders are able to spot this stuff. So if you look at this chart here for Elrond, you see that newsquake on the bottom side of that chart. You see what happened. That newsquake pops up and boom, that light line, which is the price line, just skyrockets. This is stuff that happens. And so on September 21st, the project Elrond announced on its website that staking was going to be launched as a passive income platform, My Container. So this collaboration would see some 100,000 new users get direct access to EGLD staking. And so these staking announcements are big. Any kind of listing exchange on exchanges are big. And these newsquakes are able to catch that the second they go live, and it notifies the Markets Pro traders and allows you to action that as quickly as possible. So that's one of our examples this week with the newsquakes being part of the platform. So that shot up from 193 to 251 on Elrond chart. Pretty good stuff there. If you got on that trade, you're able to catch that little rocket ship ride up. And so let's get into Axie Infinity. This is the other token that we wanted to highlight this week. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Vortex score, the Vortex score is a comparison between its current market and social conditions and those in the past. A high score means that, judging from historical data, the asset's current outlook is bullish for the next 12 to 72 hours. So taking a look at this chart here, that green and yellow line indicates that Vortex score. You see that first circle on the top of the screen where you have that Vortex score crossing over 80. So it's saying, hey, things might be a little bullish here. And for Axie Infinity, they saw some good news on the chart here where we can see those price action trends. So the price trend was negative at this time, so that when you saw that Vortex score, that price dropped, and then you saw that white line absolutely just surge after that Vortex score hit that. So we saw it soaring from $50 all the way up to $68 in the next 1.5 days. And so that's the power of the Vortex scores. You're able to kind of get that sentiment, check the weather report, and say, hey, I like this. And you're able to do a little bit of research with that and utilize this tool to best execute your trades. So if you haven't checked out Markets Pro, do so. I highly encourage you. I love the platform. I'm on it every single day, checking the scanner, seeing which Vortex scores are crossing over 80. And I know you guys are really excited for our guest today, Eric Krown. If you haven't, make sure you like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We have our special guest coming up next, and then we're gonna have our questions and answers at the end. So start getting those questions ready so that at the end of our interview today with Eric, we can chime in and answer all those burning questions that you have. So let's go ahead and bring in Eric for our guest segment for today. All right, we'd like to welcome Eric. He is a former New York Stock Exchange market maker who started his career at a very young age of 11 when he used to go down to the trading floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange with his father. From there, he got sucked in, and there was no looking back. Eric has a bachelor's in economics from the University of Oregon, feels that the opportunity and excitement of trading cryptocurrencies is unmatched by any other traditional venue of trading. Eric now uses his YouTube, which he almost has 90K subs, to help others with TA and trading strategies. How are you today, Eric?
Wow, you've definitely done your research. There is one correction, however.
Okay.
I did not trade on New York Stock Exchange. I traded on New York Stock Exchange ARCA. Small difference there, but just okay. The other side of the coast. But yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and looking forward to this talk.
Yeah, definitely. We were curious to pick your brain about all of the TA that you do and how you like to approach the markets. So I'm just kind of curious right now, what is your current sentiment? Where do you kind of see the market heading right now? And what is the current state of things in crypto? Are you optimistic or pessimistic?
Right on. So it's interesting. It depends what time frame you're talking about, right? So when it comes down to it, I imagine most people tuning into content like this, they're probably looking at more medium and long-term stuff, maybe a few weeks, months down the road. They want to know what's the big picture looking like, right? Well, I would say with Bitcoin right now, we're probably going to range around this low $40,000 region. And assuming that 42,000 holds or so, actually would be looking at this potential reversal point right here. Now, if that fails, if Bitcoin trades back down below about 42,000 bucks again, I don't think that Bitcoin's going to stop for a while after that. Probably goes all the way down to 32, 33, fills the CME gap from months ago. And then we try again. And if that fails, well, it's probably not worth talking about this market for a while. But I actually am a little bit more on the optimistic side here. I do think that whether Bitcoin has bottomed out right here and kind of spent some times, just ranging here, or whether it comes down to 32, 33, I actually do think that end of year probably looks most likely fine.
What do you think about the whole Evergrande situation? That's the big story of the week. Do you think it's going to affect long-term, like the price action for Bitcoin?
It's a really good question. So I'm actually a terrible person to ask about that. That's more of a fundamental sort of thing, but I can sort of relate my experience with these sort of, these sort of events, I guess. And typically when these sort of events get spoken about like publicly, they come on the news and you see it on CNBC all the time nowadays. It's usually coming to like the end of the effect of that. Usually that's like kind of a good signal that we're kind of, nearing the end. Regardless of that though, I have been looking for a major top in traditional markets sometime October, November, maybe December at the latest. For like a 15 to 20% correction. And could this lead into that? I think we're seeing the cracks right now. Absolutely. And that's, I think, the more actionable way of looking at something like that. But as far as the actual implications of it, I mean, these things get so damn complicated. It's I think it's impossible for any one person to know. Obviously, it's not a good thing, but I couldn't tell you like the inside of what's going on there. I just know, what it means from actual trading.
And so, Eric, would you mind pulling up like a Bitcoin chart and like kind of like technical analysis are you kind of looking at currently, and what are some like indicators that you like to use when you look at the charts?
Yeah, let me just figure out how to share a screen here.
He's a pro. He has his own indicators, dude. He's not like us. He's a pro.
Alrighty, there we go. Yeah, man. So basically, what was the question? Basically, what am I looking at right now?
Yeah, what are kind of some of the indicators that you like to use when you're looking, at a Bitcoin chart, and I guess walk us through like what you're looking at and how you like to approach looking at charts.
Yeah, so actually my trading strategy right now is rather simple. I look at just a few different things. I look at my moving averages right here. I have a BBWP, which is just a volatility-based indicator in a statistical format. And then a PMARP down here, which, sounds complicated. It's not. It's just the distance that, price action is away from a current moving average. I'm using a volume-weighted moving average right now for anyone who, happens to care. But and then it ranks it in a statistical format as well, in a percentile, format essentially. Anyways, all I'm doing is I'm essentially looking at these trends based off of the 21 and the 55, mediated by the 9 exponential moving average right here. And then I decide, do I like the setup or not? And then kind of judge based off of volatility and based off of the PMRP where those entries are. Of course, I have my own personal indicator right here with the Joule. It's obviously not needed with this, although it certainly does help. But at the end of the day, quite simple stuff. And that's, kind of my main message for anyone who is looking at getting into trading or looking at like what trading at this, or at least what I do is it's rather simple. I mean, just a few things on the board. Any entry should be extremely obvious. Any exit should be rather obvious as well. And anything more than that, I have not really found too useful and more or less confusing in my career.
And so have you had a chance to like look at, for example, like other tokens like Ethereum or Solana? I guess what are your kind of thoughts on potential like TA and looking at those tokens in particular?
In general, the market kind of moves together, and altcoins, which they all kind of are, move in a more emotional fashion than Bitcoin. Now, Solana is a bit of a special case. It kind of did its own thing for the majority of summer, is just going berserk for a while, which is really, really impressive. And whenever I see something like that, that's a really good sign, obviously. And so I was paying attention to that one. Solana, obviously, was leading the market during the summer. And if we bring it up right on over here, you can see that it's a little bit more mature within this consolidation right now. So I kind of look at Solana right now as like a general gauge of where we're at, because I look at it as a little bit more advanced as to what Bitcoin and Ethereum are doing. And they're actually a little bit less obvious charts to me right now. So this one's been rather helpful. As far as Ethereum goes, a little bit of a different thing over here. This one certainly plays a lot more with Bitcoin, although it did have a better rally on that last move up to $4,000, where Bitcoin couldn't get past, the low 50s. But overall, right here, doing the same thing as far as this correction goes as Bitcoin. So I don't really see too much, personally speaking, for me to be caring about something like this, unless if I actually want to trade it myself. But I generally view most altcoins in that fashion. They're just mirroring Bitcoin in a more emotional fashion, essentially.
And are there current like?
Do you think Bitcoin's going to get to $100,000 by the end of the year?
Say that again.
Do you think Bitcoin's going to get to $100,000 by the end of the year?
I think if this month September closes above about 44,000 or 44,500, I think it's on the board. Yeah, either end of this year or early next year, probably off the back of an ETF as well, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you think it'd take an ETF or some big regulation for that to happen?
I think it's rather likely actually that an ETF is coming. I think that's what all this is about, with getting all of these, wild west crypto exchanges off the board. You can see that the SEC and in the US is really going after a lot of these exchanges, very heftily. We saw litigations against BitMEX. We've seen litigations against Binance. And I assume, a few others are on the chopping block soon enough as well. And that, to me, is clearing the space for that. We also see the SEC chairman, Gary Gensler. He's come out and he's, definitely made his presence known, right? And it seems to me like when you see something like that, it's building up the infrastructure for something more legitimate like that to come around, because there's certainly interest for that now. There's a lot of big names trying to bring around ETFs. So I think it's it's just a matter of time. And personally speaking, I think probably within the next 6 months, very, very likely, actually.
So let's get a little bit some insights about this potential regulation that's coming. What's the worst case that you see, worst price, the bottom for Bitcoin and Ethereum over this year, What's the worst case, and how do you get to that number?
Worst case is always zero, but I suppose you're looking for a more relevant, number there. What do I think is the worst case? Okay, I think the worst case, honestly, for Bitcoin, we might have just seen it, if not 32 to 33,000 bucks. I actually I think it's rather unlikely for Bitcoin to go below 30,000 bucks here. But hey, at the end of the day, it's always a statistical game, of course. So, if that were to happen, where do we go? Everyone's going to be looking at 20,000 bucks, obviously. For Ethereum, what would that mean? 2,200. If Bitcoin were to come down to somewhere around 32 or 33. But I think it's actually very possible we might have just seen it right there. Maybe a few more tests around the low. It seems to me that there's some pretty obvious signals of accumulation going on, especially when you look at like the underlying market dynamics. It does seem rather compelling.
Okay. So, Eric, if I'm a beginner at TA, for example, besides the moving average and relative strength index, the RSI, which other indicators do we recommend?
It always depends what you want to do, right? You need to backwards engineer. But I think, honestly, if you're new, if you're just coming into the game, what's the most important thing to learn first and foremost? No indicators. Just avoid them like the plague. Look at trend. Higher highs, higher lows, that's an uptrend. Lower lows, lower highs, that's a downtrend. If you can do that, if you can trade like that, it's not going to be the most sexy thing of all time. You're not going to make, amazing gains, but you'll very likely be profitable. It's very tried and true, and it's rather simple to learn. If you can just get out of your way, I think most people can learn that within just a few weeks if they really put their mind to it. I've seen most people do it rather fast and very effective. Now, if you do want like an actual indicator on top of that, I would say, if you're going to go, okay, so if you're going to go with moving averages, RSI, of course, you don't need those, but I'd say always in my plan, something needs to be representing volatility, something needs to be representing structure, or trend, and something, a little bit icing on the cake. I like to use momentum oscillator as well. So for me, it's kind of what you saw right there, those moving averages, the BBWP for my volatility, and then I was actually using the Joule for the momentum oscillators, which you could just use an RSI as well. It's very, it's going to give you about the same results depending upon, exactly what you're focusing on, obviously.
So, Eric, for those that are watching today that are just completely new to trading, like, can you kind of unpackage and define what is trading in its most basic form? And then what are some kind of strategies that you like to use when you're looking at the markets?
Right. Okay. So trading, mechanically, trading in its basic form is just using some sort of edge, whether it be technical, fundamental, statistical, whatever, to have an advantage over time, a statistical advantage over time, whilst fighting the internal battle against your own emotions. That's essentially what it is. And then what was the second part of that?
What are some basic strategies that you're deploying when you look at, for example, like a Bitcoin or Ethereum? Is it certain percent ups? Like, what does that kind of look like when you like to enter in certain trades?
Again, it goes back to the chart that I just showed right there, but it always, always, always boils down to, in some way or form, trend. Where are we at with the trend? Trend tells me what I want to be doing. If we're in an uptrend, I'm looking for a place to buy. If we're in a downtrend, I'm looking for a place to sell. And then, those places to buy or sell, and also the exits, that's where you start to employ, some other techniques perhaps as well. Maybe you just use simple, draw the lines on the charts. That's very popular nowadays. Effective, good enough, of course. I like to trade divergences on RSI a lot of the time. That usually, kind of tells me where those lower highs or higher lows are going to be within the context of those trends. That can be rather helpful. But again, when it boils down to it, I feel like this is the answer that probably people don't want to hear. It's something very simple, just looking at trend. That is where you can have a, pretty easy edge. And then anything on top of that is, just icing on the cake, really.
And do you have any tips to kind of control the emotional aspect of trading, or is it just stick to the rules? Stick to your rules.
Wyckoff before bed. Okay, so good rules to stick to your trading. Keeping a trading journal, obviously, being very stringent with that, and having the ever and ongoing process of being reminded very nastily by the market. My girlfriend thinks that's funny. Being reminded by the market that anytime that you do deviate from your strategy, it typically does not end up too well. And why is that? Because as we just spoke about before, when it comes to trading, you are essentially just using some sort of edge that gives you a statistical advantage. And if you understand that, and if you've actually back tested this and you've actually gone through the whole rigmarole of doing that, then you know that, okay, my strategy has a 69% win rate. So that's great. And that would actually be a great strategy, by the way. And so when you take a win, or when you get a win or get a loss, does it make sense to be emotionally, compelled by those, Well, I would argue no, because it's just a matter of time before it just evens out over time and you come into that statistical narrative. So it means that trading really is a game of getting out of your own way. If you can just understand the basics of having that plan and then following that plan, emotions will come and go. And that's what trading can actually, really teach you about yourself. I think meditation and sauna are like very, very useful for that. Also, going for walks and gym, all good things that I think, probably benefit anyone, to be honest with you. But, whatever it takes to kind of just let your emotions be assuaged, and you'll learn through trading that you can feel terrible, but you can still do the right actions. You can feel great, and you can take the wrong actions. But what matters at the end of the day is just following the plan, regardless of how you feel. And that's where you become into, emotional maturity, I suppose. And that's, at least what I think is very, very important to become a trader. I mean, anytime that I find myself getting emotional and it starts to affect my trades, well, I can just write that day off. In fact, I'll just stop. I'll just go play some video games or something.
And so from your perspective, is emotional intelligence or that emotional maturity one of the most important skills you can have as a trader?
People focus on the emotional aspect a lot, and for good reason. That is typically where most people get hung up. Absolutely. Because most people can logically understand a trading plan. Like I said, most people can learn how to trade a trend, relatively quickly with just a couple weeks of just concerted, learning. So what gets in your way at that point? It's the emotions, kind of, deviating you from your path. So yeah, absolutely, it's important. And where do I want to go with that question? There's so many ways. It's really a game of coming in alignment with your emotions and not letting them affect your actions, and just realizing that you can feel some way, but still take the right action. And that's everything.
Awesome. Now, is there any other secrets that makes a great trader? What are the characteristics that you typically find yourself like, oh man, I'm glad I'm this way, or I'm glad I kind of behave like this?
Is there any secrets? To be honest with you, there's no secrets. It's very, very difficult. It's very, very hard. Most people probably shouldn't do it. You're going to lose all your money, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I've scared enough people away now. Look, you can definitely learn trading. Absolutely. But the thing is that in today's day and age, like it goes so far against, what we're kind of taught and how we're socialized in the Western world, especially. So I grew up in California, went to school there and everything. And everything that you kind of go through in school is always kind of setting you up to, feel good if you get the right answer. And that just is not going to serve you well in trading, because you're naturally going to be wrong sometimes. You're naturally going to lose money sometimes. Again, even if you have a 99.9% win rate on your strategy, there's going to be some losses there. So if you get tipped off by that, then that's really the secret. It's being able to get around that and just be in alignment with, with just being, I suppose, not to be some Buddha over here, but that is rather important. And that would be the only secret that I think is honestly relevant. Anything that can put you into a state of presence where you are not associating with, what your mind is telling you, and you can just follow the plan. That is where you can actually be successful.
Excellent. Eric, we greatly appreciate you joining and giving your insights about trading in the markets overall. We would love to have you back on the show. Everyone, this is Eric Krown. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and wish everyone well.
Right on. Well, we are going to open things up now to our questions and answers segment, where we want to hear from you. All those burning questions you guys have been holding the whole show. Now is the time to pop them in chat. Make sure that you get them in there, and we will answer all of them. So let's go ahead and get this party started for our questions and answer segment. Let's go. Did you guys have any questions first? Let's see. All right, we are scrolling through chat here. We have one. Do you think BTC could rise to 100K in December? What do you think about stock to flow model? Jordan, you want to hop in and take this?
I don't know how I feel about stock to flow model anymore. Like, I've been seeing a lot of debate on both sides of it. People are tying in. I even saw one the other day that showed the China credit impulse and how it lines up perfectly with the Bitcoin cycles and stuff. Will it go to 100,000 by the end of the year? Ooh, yeah. No, I don't know. I'm kind of in the camp. I don't know. I don't think it's going to get to 100,000 this cycle, just because everybody's saying it. Like, everybody's saying it, and I'm like, uh-oh, that's a trap. So I don't know. What do you think, Marcel?
It depends what you define cycle. I hate when people say, well, we had the 2018 bear market, but from March to June, the price went, I don't know, from $4,000 to $12,000. So that was not a complete bear cycle. Even during bear cycles, you can have 100% gains or 200% gains in a couple of months. Of course, you don't have new all-time highs, which is what people are expecting. So right now, I don't see we are in a bull trend. I see we're lateralization. I think 35,000 is possible, 55,000 is possible. They're both in play. So I don't think that the stock to flow is that much relevant for shorter time frames. If we're talking about 3 years, 4 years, yeah, it makes sense. Scarcity is going to play an important role, no doubt.
100K for end of the year. I'm going to say no, unless for some reason that ETF gets passed, we have, some massive countries start to adopt Bitcoin. I just don't see it happening. I think that's going to be the big splash that's going to get us over that 50K mark into the higher highs. And stock to flow model, I'm a believer in stock to flow model. I think that the historic trends have proven that to be a pretty solid model. So I like to look at that just as kind of a point of reference. I'm not basing trades off of that, though. Let's bring up another question here. We always love getting these questions. The old Cardano questions here. Thoughts on Cardano dexes like Sunday Swap, ADAX, and Cardano dex. Jordan, since you are the DeFi expert here, what are your thoughts?
I actually haven't tried out too many of the apps on Cardano yet because it's been so long. I'll wait for them to roll out and actually be out for more than a month before I'm like, let's go dive in. So again, when you look at what Ethereum has done and how they're trying to change their wheel whilst driving their car, Cardano did a different approach and they did it more academic and did everything without the spotlight of having everybody already on their network. Well, so I'm hopeful about Cardano in the future. I do hold some of it. I don't think that Ethereum is going to be the end-all be-all smart contracts platform, and I'm concerned about it being able to transfer into Ethereum 2.0. So that leaves room for platforms like Cardano to get in, but they need to keep up with Solana. Solana's doing a lot of development too. Like this isn't a one horse or two horse game, man. This is as many horses as you get in the game, and whoever develops the best technology kind of a thing. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I haven't got to dabble on Cardano yet. I'm a huge DeFi guy. I love it. I hear the buzz, the bee's knees right now is Solana. Not to say that Cardano doesn't have a good product or whatever. I just haven't dabbled in that ecosystem. I am optimistic about the future and adoption of that chain and the DeFi ecosystem. I definitely need to look into that more. But as of right now, like I said earlier this week, everyone I spoke to at Mainnet was talking about Solana. Marcel, what do you think?
Yeah, if you scroll back the tape like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, remember that EOS, the block one, they raised like, I don't know, $4 billion on the ICO, and they used that money either for staking or for directly buying developers or applications from Ethereum to join EOS. So this strategy works for a short time. Because yes, you get a lot of dApps and applications running on your chain, but if the users don't come through, then it's money wasted. So who uses EOS nowadays? Who uses strong networks nowadays? No one. They're barely dead networks compared to Solana, to Avalanche, to Ethereum. So when you are a latecomer to the party, even if you have tons of cash to spend, you got to give them something 10x better. So Binance Smart Chain, when it entered the game, it gave something 10x better. Cheaper prices than an Ethereum centralized solution. Then Solana came with a 10x better solution. So cheaper price, but not so much centralized as Binance Smart Chain. So if the next competitor, I don't know if it's Cardano or whatever, it needs to give a 10x advantage over the other ones so people would shift from one product to the other.
Yeah,
excellent
and
points.
Right now, it's like the market's feeling a lot to me like it was at the end of the ICO days and the last Michael, where there's so many projects coming out and it's getting so heavy, especially with the NFT market where we're talking about right here. So like, I'm kind of wary of getting into any new positions at this point. I'm like, I'm gonna wait for the blow off top of the bear market. That's when I'll like, if there's a good DEX on Cardano or a really good NFT project that's still surviving and like putting out like new updates and stuff, that's when I'll be looking into all these new projects. Otherwise, I'll stick with the train tracks like a Cardano and a Solana and a Ethereum, the ones that all these things are being built on, because they're more likely to survive the next winter that we do go through.
If you are a DeFi nerd, you're looking for the highest yields, and those yield from. So if Cardano's got them, I'll be shopping there. And so, all right, question. We kind of touched on this earlier in the show, and this will be like the last question for today. Is what do you guys think about the NFTs? The bubble, is it real value? Jordan, why don't you jump in here?
It's some real value with bubblicious tendencies. So there's a lot of it's in the bubble. There's going to be value that's stored in these things just because that's the nature of the whole ecosystem is moving that way. You're not going to lose a lot of the value of some of these top NFT projects just because I think a lot of the big whale wallets are backing them and keeping those projects up and relevant. So I think, but overall, don't get into the NFT game trying to make millions of dollars. Get into it because you like a piece of art or something that you want to keep and you don't care about the value because long term, a lot of these things aren't going to hold a lot of the value, in my opinion.
Marcel, what say you? NFTs are a bubble?
I have a good phrase for that. A bubble is any asset that it's going up, 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 and you're not long. You don't have it. So you call it a bubble.
Excellent insights. I think NFTs are here to stay. Will we see a downtrend in the NFT market? I think so. So hopefully right now is not the case, but I think short term it's going to be a bubble. So strap in, folks.
NFTs don't have like a circulating supply cap. Like there's infinite number of NFTs that can be made. So it's like we're not talking about like a Bitcoin where there's only 21 million Bitcoin. NFTs is a very broad topic. So yeah, exactly.
And I mean, until you start to see mainstream adoption, the ticket masters, the whatever, issuing out NFTs for show tickets, concert tickets, whatever. It's like, yeah, I think it's kind of very insulated to this art and music and graphics industry. But folks, we appreciate you joining in. As always, like and subscribe our YouTube channel. We are Cointelegraph. This is the market report. We appreciate everyone jumping in and joining, asking the questions right here. Click and subscribe, set those notifications so you know when we go live. We have another big guest next week. We appreciate everyone tuning in. And until next time, over and out.